Hello dear students, today we start the next chapter of financial accounting, that is buyback of shares. A very simple chapter, a very scoring chapter. There are certain limits which you are supposed to remember, that also are simple. I will do it in a very interesting way with you all so that you all will find it very simple. Again, a common chapter for BCom as well as BAF. Okay, now see, last year in SY, you all have done redemption of preference shares. In SY, you all have done redemption of preference shares. The concept here is on similar grounds. Not exact same, but the concept is similar, and majority of the entries also you will find it similar, provided you all remember what was there in SY. Now, what was the chapter what you all did in SY? Redemption of preference shares. Redemption of preference shares में क्या होता था? When you issued preference shares, you collected money. There was a particular period. You all know, preference shares का maximum period होता था 20 years. Within a period of 20 years, you have to return the money back to the preference shareholders. Now, for equity shareholders, there is no such period. But preference share holders से पैसा लिया. When the time came, we repaid the money back. When the time came, we repaid the money back. So that was redemption of preference shares. The preference shares which were issued in the past, now you are taking back the shares from the preference shareholders, and against that you are paying them money. That was redemption of preference shares. The same meaning applies here, but here instead of preference shares, here the shares will be equity. So when I say buyback of shares, it would always mean equity, because if it is preference, it will be redemption. Okay, so buyback of shares means buying back the equity shares which were earlier issued to the equity shareholder. Basic na, a new company's form or existing company comes out with an issue. People like you and me, we apply, we give them money, we become the shareholders. So when the time of repayment comes, our money is given back. But that time, as I told you, was applicable for preference shares. Equity mein, there is no such time limit. Equity shares, you all know, are in the form of ownership. When the company gets wound up, liquidated, company जब बंद होता है, that time equity shareholders get their money back. But there is a provision in the Companies Act where if the company feels with certain objects, what are the objects, I'll come to that, then they can arrange for a buyback by getting the approval of the shareholders. So buyback of shares means taking back the shares from the equity shareholders, not all, as per the limits. Limits क्या we will see in some time. Taking back the shares and giving them the money, whatever is agreed upon. Simple words में you can say last year redemption of preference था, preference shares था, यहाँ पे it is redemption of equity shares, but here we cannot use the word redemption because यहाँ पे time limit नहीं था. Debentures and preference shares में there was a time limit, equity shares में there is no time limit, so we use the word buyback. So buyback of equity shares means the shares which were issued to the equity shareholder, part of the shares from few shareholders, you are taking it back and giving them the money. Okay, now see, few important points. First of all, very important, the provision of buyback of shares are governed by section 68 of the Companies Act 2013. Old Company Act में there was a different section, 77A होता था, as per Companies Act 56, that is out now. Of course the rules are same only, but provision मतलब the name of the section has been revised. So now it is section 68 of the Companies Act. So याद रखना, important from objective point of view also, section 68 is the section of the Companies Act which lays down the provisions of buyback of shares. Now जैसे मैंने बोला, there are certain objects. Why does the company want to buy back? अभी देखो, first of all, whenever a company issues equity shares, क्या होता है? Equity shareholders owner बन जाते हैं. Now at an initial stage, company needs that. But जैसे जैसे company grow होता है, they will say, okay यार, हमारे पास ownership है, let's reduce that ownership. हमें ओनरशिप कम करना है. जितने शेयर होल्डर्स कम, उतना मगजमारी कम, बिकॉज डायरेक्टर्स मैनेज द कंपनी बट इट इज ओन्ड बाय द शेयर होल्डर्स. सो वन ऑब्जेक्ट इज टू रिड्यूस द ओनरशिप. एंड द सेकेंड थिंग which is very important, it reduces the number of shares, and the reduction in number of shares increases the earning per share. You will have done ratios earlier, correct? जितना EPS ज्यादा, उतना stock market, the share market price will be higher. So another object is to reduce the number of shares. So my EPS increases, earning per share increases. जितना मेरा EPS बढ़ेगा, उतना मेरा share price बढ़ेगा. Okay, now see, just take an example. Suppose my profit of the year is 50 lakhs. Okay, just take an hypothetical example. My profit of the year is 50 lakhs. What is EPS ka formula? The total profits divided by the number of shares. Now, I'm assuming my number of equity shares is 1 lakh. So 50 lakh ko 1 lakh se divide kiya. So my EPS is coming to 50 rupees per share. Okay, my EPS is coming to 50 rupees. See the logic. 50 rupees कैसे आया? Because this 50 lakh is divided amongst 1 lakh shares. Okay. Now let's take some other example for number of shares. I am keeping the profit same only. 1 lakh share में से company decides to buy back 20,000 shares. Okay. So अभी मेरे shares कितने हो गए? 80. ये 80 कैसे आया? 1 lakh minus 20. Now see, 50 lakh को 80,000 से डिवाइड करो, आंसर आ रहा है 62.5. यहां पे कितना था? 50. How much it came here? 62.5. The earnings per share, which was 50 rupees in this case, now it increased to 62.5. Increase क्यों हुआ? Because यहाँ पे 50 lakh was divided by 1 lakh, यहाँ पे 50 lakh was divided by 80,000. यहाँ पे कम शेयर्स पे डिवाइड हुआ है, तो जितना कम शेयर्स होगा उतना मेरा EPS बढ़ेगा. तो यहाँ पे देखो, अर्निंग में 12 रुपये 50 पैसे का फर्क आ गया. अकॉर्डिंग टू द P ratio, whatever is there in the market, तुम्हारा शेयर प्राइस भी बढ़ेगा. So this is another object. There are some shareholders who are ready to sell their shares. So company will say, okay fine, तुम instead of selling it in the market, हम तुम्हें option दे रहे, तुम हमें ही दे दो. So if the shareholder gives the shares to the company directly instead of selling it in the stock market, दोनों का फायदा होगा. So that is one important object for buyback of shares. There are few other things also, but right now let's focus on this. Got it? So hope the concept is clear. क्यों मेरा EPS बढ़ रहा है? I explained you in this. Got it? Now see, as I told you, the provisions of buyback are governed under section 68. Now, when you buy back, apart from the legal procedure, you have to take the approval of shareholders. वो तो है ही. And as I told you, there are certain limits. But before I come to the limits, understand this very important. The point what I'm going to tell you all now, very important from theory point of view also. because many times it has come in theory also. Okay. Now, whenever a company wants to buy back, what are the sources of buyback? Sources मतलब जो शेयर होल्डर्स को पैसा देना है वो पैसा कहां से आएगा? Now, here there are two sources. You can call it as three also, but we normally take it as two sources. First is the first source is free reserves and securities premium. Now, why I told you can call three also. Free reserve का अलग consider करो, security premium का अलग consider करो. It becomes two. So, one source is free reserves and security premium. याद रखना, what you all had done redemption of preference shares in SY, उसमें it was only free reserve, security premium नहीं था, but यहाँ पे you can use security premium. And the other second sources which you all have done in SY also, fresh issue of shares. Okay, so there are two sources. One is free reserves and security premium, and the other is fresh issue of shares. Free reserves and security premium and fresh issue of shares. Now, security premium, you all know, whenever the company issues the share, when you issue the shares at a price higher than the face value, then that excess amount goes to security premium. 10 रुपए का शेयर है, you all have done in SYJC also. You have issued at 12 rupees, so 2 rupees extra. So 2 rupees is my security premium. 10 रुपए का शेयर issue for 15 rupees, 5 rupees extra. So 5 rupee becomes security premium. So that is security premium. And free reserve means those reserves where there is no restriction, you can use it whenever you want. जैसे कि general reserve, profit and loss, reserve fund, dividend equalization reserve. The official definition is those reserves which are available for dividend distribution are called as free reserves. I gave you the example. There are certain reserves which you cannot use it for all purpose. They are called as non-free reserve. जैसे कि capital reserve, capital redemption reserve, revaluation reserve, export reserve, all these are not free. So free means those where there is no restriction, you can use it whenever you want. Again, I'll give the examples: general reserve, reserve fund, dividend equalization reserve, profit and loss. Got it? So this was the first part. Now the second part, fresh issue of shares. Now, you all have done last year in redemption of preference shares. There also this was a source. But वहां पे क्या था? When you make a fresh issue of shares, it can be either preference or equity. यहाँ पे when I say fresh issue of shares, now understand it. Of course, इतना deep में तुम्हारे syllabus में नहीं है. The fresh issue of shares which takes place or which you are going to consider for buyback cannot be of the same class. That means if I am issuing equity, if I am buybacking equity shares, my fresh issue will not be of equity. My fresh issue will be of preference shares. So my fresh issue will be of preference shares. But there is a point here जो इतना डीप में तुम्हारे सिलेबस में नहीं है. There are no sums and there's a difference of opinion also. I'm not getting into that, but I'll just give you a basic gist. Suppose you have equity shares, only one type of equity share, 10 rupees face value. You want to buy back. You cannot make a fresh issue of that. Because अगर तुमको fresh issue ही करना है तो buy back क्यों कर रहे हो? Getting it? But there's one point. Suppose you have two types of equity shares. One जिसका face value is 10 rupees. वन जिसका फेस वैल्यू इज 20 रुपीज. ये सिचुएशन भी रेयर है, बट पॉइंट इज देयर. इफ आई एम बाय बैकिंग 10 रुपी वाला, I cannot make a fresh issue of 10. It will be 20. If I am buybacking 20 wala, I cannot issue 20 wala. I will issue 10. This situation also is very rare because normally the company will go for this only, or they will try to take reserves first. So in short, legal definition, the shares which you are going to issue on buyback cannot be of the same class which you are going to buy back. Cannot be of the same class. Because of this statement which is there in the act, I gave you this example. As I told you, in your syllabus, there are no sums on this because it creates unnecessary confusion. Got it? So these are the sources of buyback. Clear with this? Now, after the sources, now I come to the limit. These limits you have to remember and has to be applied in majority of the sum. Why majority of the sums? Because in few sums they will straight away give you so and so number of shares are to be bought back, whereas in few cases you will have to find out how many shares you can buy back as per section 68. आज एक sum भी करूंगा. After I discuss the limit, I will take a sum. उसमें we will see the calculation of the limits also. Okay. Now see, what are the limits? There are three limits. While calculating, people also consider fourth one. I will discuss the three limits. फोर्थ वाला लिमिट आज मैं डिस्कस नहीं करूंगा because it will create confusion. But what is the fourth limit? When I complete the sum, what I am going to do, मैं तुमको उसका थोड़ा gist दे दूंगा. So right now just focus on the three limits which are there. Fourth, you cannot say it's an official limit, but it has to be considered. और जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना वैसा आज तक खाली एक ही बार सम आया है. Of course that I have done in my regular lectures. उसका recording भी है. But at this stage I am not getting into that. After I finish the sum, I'll definitely discuss that point with you. Okay? चलो. Now what are the limits? Let's take one by one. इसको कैसे implement करने का, कैसे solve करने का, that we will see when I do the sum. First limit. Now the first limit as per section 68 of the Companies Act for buyback is the maximum number of shares. Maximum number of shares to be bought back cannot be more than 25% of existing shares issued. Existing equity. Maximum number of shares to be bought back cannot be more than 25% of existing equity shares. Suppose the company has issued 2 lakh shares. 2 lakh का 25% होता है 50,000. So as per the first limit, the maximum number of shares to be bought back will be 50,000. I'll repeat again. Assuming 2 lakh shares are issued by the company, 2 lakh का 25% is 50,000. The maximum number of shares to be bought back by the company cannot be more than 50,000. This is the first limit. We will see the calculation when we come to the sum. Second limit. Second limit is maximum amount to be paid on buyback. Maximum amount to be paid on buyback cannot be more than 25% of paid up share capital, free reserves and securities premium. I'll repeat, as per the second limit, the maximum amount to be paid on buyback cannot be more than 25% of paid up share capital, free reserves and securities premium. Cannot be more than 25% of paid up share capital, free reserves and securities premium. Clear with this? Now, before we come to the third limit, there is a certain calculation to be made. Some people don't do it. I prefer doing it to make concept much clear. See, when I do the sums ना, मैं जब ये limit calculate करूँगा ना, there are few people, there are few professors and teachers who do it in the form of formula or table. I avoid doing that. They might do the limits in 5 minutes. मेरे calculation के हिसाब से you will take 3-4 minutes more. But confusion नहीं रहेगा because I am going logically. I am being very open with you. When your college teachers teaches, or if this is an open video on YouTube, if you all are going classes somewhere else, if you are comfortable with that, you can go with that particular option, your choice. But I prefer doing it point wise logically. So after the first two limit, there is a calculation to be done where you have to select between the two. वो कैसे करने का? Right now I am not doing. When I do the sum in this session only, I will do it with you. Got it? So right now I am not getting into that. So this was the first limit. Maximum number of shares to be bought back cannot be more than 25% of the existing shares number, and the amount to be paid for buyback cannot be more than 25% of paid up share capital, free reserves and securities premium. Now come to the next limit, that is limit number 3. Come to the next limit, that is limit number 3. Post buyback. Post buyback. When I say post buyback, matlab after buyback, my debt equity ratio. Post buyback, debt equity ratio should not be more than 2:1. Post buyback, that is after buyback, my debt equity ratio should not be more than 2:1. Debt equity ratio, you all have done it in SY, BAF and BCom both. याद है formula? Debt equity ratio is equal to debt upon equity. Debt upon equity. Now here, when I say debt, debt means long-term debt. That means long-term borrowings where the amount is to be repaid after 1 year. Debt here means long-term debt where the amount is paid after 1 year. Short-term debt और current liabilities यहाँ पे consider नहीं होता. जैसे debentures, bank loans, all that come under category of debt. Bank overdraft, short-term loans, they are short-term debts. They cannot be treated as debt here. Debt here means debt long-term wala. Okay? And equity. Now, those who are with me in S5, I have repeatedly explained. Again, I am mentioning for benefit of all. Even though the word is equity, that doesn't mean it will include only equity share capital. Equity will include equity share capital, preference share capital, and free reserves and security premium. Here equity means all the reserves, free and non-reserve. But when it comes to section 68 buyback, here your equity will include paid up share capital, equity and preference both. Even यहाँ पे my paid up share capital will be equity and preference both, and free reserves and security premium. In short, non-free reserves will not be considered while calculating. Debt equity ratio should not be more than 2:1. If it goes above 2:1, then the situation will change. Those who are going to study this full chapter with me, last two sessions may I'll be taking sums where the debt equity ratio goes above 2:1. Got it, guys? So these are the three limits. Now, as I told you, limits to 3 ही है, but there is an additional point which is to be considered, which I will not discuss now. I will discuss after the sum is over. That also, if I feel I'll discuss, otherwise I will not create any confusion. वो important है, but I don't want to get into that at this stage. अगर मुझे लगेगा after the sum, I'll explain. Got it? Now see, you have to consider these three limits, but when you will consider only when the question tells you that company is planning for a buyback and you guide them how many shares they can buy back, then you will do this. Now suppose the question says company decided to buy back 10,000 shares, all the necessary approvals were given. That means you have to just pass the journal entries. ये limit consider नहीं करना है. In this हर एक sum में you have to do journal entries. Wherever they ask you balance sheet, and limit wherever required. So in short, journal entries हर एक sum में होगा. Limits calculate नहीं करना है, just pass the entries. Limits calculate करना है, calculate the limits, pass the entries. If balance sheet is asked, then do balance sheet. Today का sum what I am going to do in some time, there is limits to be calculated and journal. I am not getting into balance sheet का part in this session. And balance sheet now you all have done in SY, you all have done in the previous chapter internal reconstruction, you all know very well, so I will not focus more on balance sheet. In this session mein to not at all. Clear with this? So guys, these were the three limits. Now how to execute and implement in the sum. Now we will see. I am taking a question. You all have the question with you all. We will read that question. We will pass the journal entries. Before we pass the journal entries, we will see the limits to be calculated so that you will get an idea how to do that. I'll just be back because I need the board, so I'll just rub it and I'll be back with the sum. Okay guys, chalo. Let's take the extra question what you have. Let's read the question. Netra Limited intends, matlab they are intending, they are planning. Because of this word, it's an indication that we will have to calculate the limits. So I will do the limits here according to the final conclusion of limits. Sorry, how many shares are to be bought back. On that basis, then we will do the journal. Okay, intends to buy back 1 lakh equity shares of rupees 10 each at rupees 25 per share. The share capital and reserves and the other data are as follows. Equity share capital 10 each 40 lakhs, security premium 30 lakhs, general reserve 45 lakhs, 10% debentures 80 lakhs. You are requested to advise the company whether they can buy back the above shares as intended. They have planned 1 lakh. You have to tell them whether they can do that or no. By Netra Limited as per the provision of Companies Act and past journal entries assuming buyback is completed as per the provisions of Companies Act. Okay, chalo. Now, as I told you, three limits. Fourth point earlier was not considered only, but because of one sum coming in BCom exam, we'll be doing that in the regular lectures. That fourth point is to be considered. But as I told you, if required, I will discuss that only after the journal, otherwise no. Okay, now see. They want to buy back 1 lakh equity shares. You have to tell them first how many shares they can buy back considering the limits of section 68 of the Companies Act. Once we get the final conclusion after considering all the limits, then journal ka part will come. Okay, chalo, let's start. Now see, what is the first limit? What I told you. As per the first limit, the maximum number of shares to be bought back cannot be more than existing shares का 25%. Now see, below see equity share capital कितना amount है? Equity share capital का amount is 40 lakhs. Brackets में कितना है? 10 rupees. 40 lakhs divided by 10 gives you 4 lakh. So right now the existing number of equity shares is 4 lakhs. I'll repeat again. Total amount of equity share capital is 40 lakhs. Okay, total amount is 40 lakhs. Face value of each share is 10 rupees. So 40 lakhs divided by 10. Number of equity shares is 4 lakh. So as per the first limit, maximum number of shares will be 4 lakh into 25%, that is 1 lakh. How you got 4 lakh? 40 lakh ka share capital divided by the face value 10. Okay. In my regular lectures, I have presented in little bit detailed manner, but this is an open video, so I'm just focusing on point to point things so that there shouldn't be any confusion among the students who are watching. Okay. So I'll repeat. First limit, maximum number of shares cannot be more than 25% to be bought back. Currently, the company has issued 4 lakh equity shares. 40 lakh is the share capital amount, face value is 10. So 4 lakh ka 25%, 1 lakh. So as per the first limit, maximum number of shares is 1 lakh. Okay, I'll write there. As per limit 1, maximum number of shares to be bought back is 1 lakh. So maximum 1 lakh shares to be bought back as per limit 1. Maximum number of shares to be bought back 1 lakh. That means you cannot buy back more than 1 lakh. This is not the only limit. We have to consider the others also. So this is the first limit. I hope it is clear. Yaad rakhna, if you make a mistake here, journal will go wrong, because journal will be according to the number of shares what you decide to buy back. Okay, chalo. Now let's just take the second one. What I told you, as per the second limit, maximum amount, यहाँ पे भी number consider करना है, but first amount. As per the second limit, maximum amount to be paid on buyback cannot be more than 25% of paid up share capital plus free reserves plus security premium. As per the second limit, the maximum amount to be paid cannot be more than 25% of paid up share capital, free reserves and security premium. Let's see. What is my paid up share capital? Keep in mind, paid up means only the paid up value, and it can be for both equity as well as preference. यहाँ पे preference share capital नहीं है. Preference share capital होता तो वो भी consider करते थे. Paid up equity share capital 40 lakhs. Free reserve में general reserve है. I give you the example, general reserve 45 lakhs and security premium 30 lakhs. Okay. Paid up share capital 40 lakhs, free reserves 45 lakhs and security premium 30 lakhs. Let's compute. So 40 plus 45 1 crore 15 lakh. So 25% of 1 crore 15 lakhs gives you 28 lakh 75,000. Okay. Now remember, the maximum amount, the maximum amount which you will pay on buyback will be 28 lakh 75,000. It cannot be more than 28 lakh 75,000. The maximum amount to be paid on buyback cannot be more than 28 lakh 75,000. Now guys, listen. यहाँ पे 1 lakh number है, यहाँ पे amount है. We will have to calculate the number also. As I told you, my criteria is a bit different. अभी देखो, what is the buyback price per share? Starting the second line देखो, 10 रुपए का शेयर है, you are going to buy back at 25. That means face value is 10. Premium will be 25 minus 10, that is 15. So my buyback price 25 ka breakup is face value 10 per share and 15 rupees premium. Face value 10 per share and 15 rupees premium. That gives you 25 rupees. This is the amount. So the maximum number of share as per limit 2 will be, देखो, maximum amount, that is 28 lakh 75,000 divided by the buyback price, that is 25. इसको 25 से divide करो, you get 1,15,000 shares. You get 1,15,000 shares. Getting it, guys? So as per limit 2, the maximum number of shares to be bought back will be 1,15,000 shares. Got it? कैसे आया 1,15,000? वापस मैं रिपीट करता हूँ. First take the amount. Paid up share capital, free reserve security premium is 1 crore 15 lakh. Maximum amount to be paid cannot be more than 25% of this. इसका 25% is 28 lakh 75,000. So the maximum amount to be paid on buyback will be 28 lakh 75,000. This 28 lakh 75,000 divided by the buyback price, which is given 25. It includes premium if there. So 1,15,000 shares is my answer as per the second limit. Now guys, listen. You remember starting I told you, when you do the first two limits, before we come to the third limit, there is an extra point which I will consider. So now I'll consider that. Now see, as per first limit 1 lakh maximum, as per second limit 1,15,000. Now if I say I buy back this, you are going against this na, because first limit says 1 lakh के ऊपर buy back नहीं कर सकते हो. Second limit says buy back you can do maximum 1,15,000. So if I buy back 1,15,000, I am going against 1 lakh. And suppose मेरा आंसर यहाँ पे होता 90,000, I am going against 90,000. So in short, before I see the third limit, first I have to decide the number of shares as per limit 1 and 2. That will be this or this, whichever is lower. Getting it now? Because if I buy back this, I am going against this. ये 1 lakh के नीचे होता, if I buy back 1 lakh, I am going against that number. So what you will do is, I'll make it very simple. Therefore, maximum number of shares to be bought back as per limit 1 and 2 will be lower of the two, that is 1 lakh. Okay, lower of the two means 1 lakh or 115, whichever is lower. So my conclusion at this stage will be that I will buy back maximum 1 lakh shares. I will buy back maximum 1 lakh shares. Clear with this, guys? So this is the way I will be proceeding for the remaining part of the chapter. So the conclusion at this stage is the number of shares to be bought back will be maximum 1 lakh. Question क्या बोलता है? The company intends to buy back 1 lakh. So at this stage it is fine. You can go for 1 lakh. Now see, had the question told you company intends to buy back 125, you will say no. Maximum number will be 1 lakh only. अगर क्वेश्चन ने बोला होता कंपनी इंटेंड्स टू बाय बैक 125, you will say no, you cannot buy back more than 1 lakh. Now an interesting thing, suppose the question says company intends to buy back 80,000, maximum is 1 lakh, fine. अगर तुमको इससे कम बाय बैक करना है, योर चॉइस, यू कैन गो बाय बैक 80,000, बट you cannot buy back more than 1 lakh. Getting my point now? I'll repeat again. क्वेश्चन ने बोला होता 1 लाख के ऊपर, यू विल से नो, मैक्सिमम 1 लाख. क्वेश्चन सेज द कंपनी वांट्स टू बाय बैक ओनली 80, मैक्सिमम इज 1 लाख. तुमको इससे कम बाय बैक करना है, नो प्रॉब्लम, योर चॉइस. दो सम्स आल्सो विल कम आगे जाके. क्लियर? सो द फर्स्ट टू लिमिट्स आर डन. एज पर द फर्स्ट टू लिमिट्स, द कंक्लूजन इज maximum 1 lakh shares. Okay, now I come to the third limit, where the debt equity ratio, as I told you, debt equity ratio post buyback should not be more than 2:1. Debt equity ratio post buyback should not be more than 2:1. अगर वो 2:1 से नीचे है, go as per this. अगर वो 2:1 के ऊपर है, 1 लाख और कम हो जाएगा. As I told you, when I come to the ending part, the last 2 lectures of this chapter, I will see that situation. But let's see the current situation. First of all, formula लिखना है. Debt equity ratio is equal to debt upon equity. Debt equity ratio is debt upon equity. Now see, I have put in the question debentures. अगर क्वेश्चन में डेप्ट ही नहीं है तो थर्ड लिमिट आएगा ही नहीं. अगर क्वेश्चन में डेप्ट है ही नहीं, थर्ड लिमिट विल नॉट कम. थर्ड लिमिट विल कम इनटू पिक्चर only if in the question there is debt. Third limit will come into picture only when question में there is debt. Clear with this? So debt equity ratio will come into picture only in the question when there is debt. Got it? Now ये सब में मैंने डिबेंचर्स डाला है. So see, what is my debt? I want before buyback, sorry, post buyback, but डिबेंचर्स का पॉइंट है ही नहीं. सो डिबेंचर मतलब there is no adjustment relating to debentures. Debt, that is debenture, is 80 lakhs. So I'll take debentures 80 lakhs as my numerator. Now guys listen, कैसे करोगे? Equity, this is post buyback. Equity means what? Same what I told you. Paid up share capital, free reserves and security premium. Normally when we do debt equity we take all reserves, but buyback में it has to be this. तो अभी देखो ये कितना था? Paid up share capital, free reserve, security premium. Already हमने कैलकुलेट किया है. 1 crore 15 lakh. Now this is pre buyback. This is pre buyback. I want post buyback. कैसे करोगे? Post buyback. How many shares I want to buy back? What was the conclusion? I will buy back 1 lakh shares. Okay. So 1 lakh shares buyback करना है at what price? 25. 1 lakh shares मुझे buyback करना है at what price? 25. So 1 lakh into 25 gives me 25 lakhs. So now what will happen? My revised denominator will be 80 lakhs upon 1 crore 15 lakh minus 25 lakh gives you 90 lakhs. 1 crore 15 lakh minus 25 gives you 15 lakhs. अभी देखो वापस मैं रिपीट कर रहा हूं. Debt is debentures 80 lakhs. Equity 1 crore 15 lakh. This is before buyback. I want after buyback. What I have decided here at this stage, maximum shares 1 lakh. 1 lakh into 25 gives you 25 lakhs. So after buyback मेरा equity 25 lakh से कम होगा. So 1 crore 15 lakh minus 25 lakh gives me 90 lakhs. Now you see 80 lakhs divided by 90 lakhs gives me 0.88 is to 1. Gives me 0.88 is to 1. What is the condition? What is the limit? Post buyback, this should not be more than 2 is to 1. अगर ये 2 is to 1 या उससे कम है, it is fine. कितना है? 0.88. So it's absolutely fine. I will buy back 1 lakh shares. अगर ये more than 2 is to 1 होता, there would be another calculation after this where the answer would be less than 1 lakh. I would have gone with that, which I am going to do with you all, but towards the end of the chapter. Right now, I don't want to get into that. I'm just focusing on the basic. Getting it, guys? So, because this is less than 2 is to 1, I will buy back 1 lakh shares. You can just write a note. I'll be doing in the regular class also. Just write a note. After copying this, just write a note. Write down after this. Since the debt equity ratio, after buyback, since the debt equity ratio after buyback is less than 2 is to 1, therefore the company can buy back 1 lakh shares. Got it? As per the first two limits, it was 1 lakh. Since the third limit में debt equity ratio is less than 2 is to 1, I can go with 1 lakh. अगर ये 2 is to 1 के ऊपर होता, ये 1 lakh और कम होगा. That we will see towards the end of the chapter. Okay guys, अभी देखो कंपनी का इंटेंशन क्या है? 1 lakh shares. Yes, as per the limit, you can buy back 1 lakh. अगर कंपनी ने बोला होता 75 या 80,000 less than 1 lakh, no problem. Limit says you can go with it. So in that case, you would have gone with that. So in short, now when I pass the journal entries, the situation is that company is buybacking 1 lakh shares at rupees 25. 10 रुपए का शेयर 25 में बाय बैक करना है. That means 15 rupees का प्रीमियम. Now after we got the number, now I will record the journal. What is the situation? Again I'll repeat. When I start the journal, company is buybacking 1 lakh shares at rupees 25 per share. Okay, so now I'll start the journal. I'll just have water and I'll just be back. Okay guys, चलो starting with the journal. Again I am repeating the same thing. तुम लोग बोलोगे सर बार बार क्यों बोलता है? I have that habit to make the concept more clear. Okay, चलो now 1 lakh equity shares to be bought back. Buyback price 25 rupees. On that basis we will pass the journal entries. Date नहीं दिया है, so we will go as per serial number. टू बी ऑनेस्ट एक पेज का जर्नल बनाओ, मोर देन इनफ. There will be total 4 journal entries in this sum. Okay, now step by step. Now those who remember TYBAF and TYBCOM ka redemption of preference shares, you are going to find this very simple. You will find this very simple. Okay guys, chalo. What is to be done? Can you see any issue of shares in this? No. In case there is any issue of shares or debentures or any sale of investment जो आगे जाके आएगा, then those entries be passed first, but it is not there. So straight away we will start with buyback. When I issue shares, I credit equity share capital or preference share capital, and when I redeem or buy back, I will do the reverse. Okay, when I issue shares, I credit. Now I am buybacking. Buyback में क्या हो रहा है? 1 lakh shares I am taking back from the shareholders and I am going to pay them money. So my share capital will reduce. I have done in each and every sum in internal reconstruction with you all. Liabilities always have a credit balance. If it reduces, I will debit. Equity share capital is a liability. I want to reduce, so I will debit. So first will be I am buybacking equity shares. When I issue, I credit equity share capital. Now I am buybacking, so I will debit equity share capital. So equity share capital account debit. Be careful. कितने shares? 1 lakh. I am buybacking at a buyback price of 25. I am buybacking at a buyback price of 25, which includes 15 premium. How 15 premium? Because my face value is 10. Now remember, when I record share capital account, debit or credit, I cannot write more than the face value. So even though I am buybacking at 25 rupees per share, my face value is 10. So here it will be 1 lakh into 10, that is 10 lakh. 1 lakh into 10, that is 10 lakhs. So my equity share capital account will be debited by 10 lakhs. So 1 lakh equity shares into 10, my equity share capital account will be debited by 10 lakhs. My equity share capital will be debited by 10 lakhs. Now, buyback करना है what price? 25. Face value is 10, whereas I am going to pay them at 25 rupees. So can I say 25 minus 10, 15 rupees? Here the buyback is at premium. Same like redemption. Buyback can be either at par or at premium or at discount. Buyback can be either at par, premium or discount. यहाँ पे 10 रुपी का शेयर आई एम सॉरी excuse me, 10 rupee ka share I am going to buy back at 25. So 15 rupees will be my premium. So 1 lakh into 15, 15 lakh will be my extra amount towards premium, which I will debit to an account called as premium on buyback. Okay, which I will debit to an account called as premium on buyback. So I will repeat, 1 lakh equity shares to be bought back at 25. 25 में से 10 will be capital and 15 will be premium. Now, buyback क्या कर रहा हूँ? Equity shareholder. What I told you, I will take the shares and I'll pay them money. तो पैसा किसको देना है? I have to pay the money to equity shareholders. So now I will credit the total amount to equity shareholders. That is 25 lakh. आ गया 25. 1 lakh shares 25 rupees में buyback करना है. So 1 lakh into 25 lakh. 25 lakh will be my amount to be credited to equity shareholders. याद है SYBAF, SYBCOM. Same journal entry for preference shares, but equity की जगह preference share. Narration being amount due to equity shareholders. Being amount due to equity shareholders. Being amount due to equity shareholders. Got it? So I'll repeat. Number of shares to be bought back 1 lakh. One share is of 10 rupees. You are buybacking at 25. So 25 minus 10, 15 rupees is my premium. So equity share capital account debit 10 lakhs. Again, I'm explaining the logic. When I issue shares, I credit equity share capital. Now I'm taking it back. So I'll debit equity share capital. But equity share capital I can debit only to the extent of face value, which is 10 rupees. And baki ka 15, I am supposed to pay the premium. So I will debit an account called as premium on buyback. And the total amount is payable to the equity shareholders. So I will credit equity shareholders account. Got it? Now, the next entry, second entry. Whenever the shares are to be bought back at a premium, I debited premium. Immediately in the next entry, I will have to write off the premium. Premium I had to write off. You'll have done it in SY. Same entry. I had to write off the premium against the reserve. The only different point was, वहाँ पे we use the word premium on redemption of preference shares. Here it is on buyback. Redemption of preference shares में we were not allowed to use security premium. Here I can use security premium. What I told in the starting, two sources, fresh issue of shares, free reserve and security premium. So this premium has to be written off either against free reserve or security premium. Act doesn't mention. So guys, what we will do? Security premium has limited use. Free reserve has more use. So it's better if you have security premium के सामने write off करो. Why? Because आगे जाके you can use it only at limited place. तो अगर आज मुझे उसको यूज करने का चांस मिल रहा है, अभी यूज कर लो. So this 15 lakh, if we have security premium, we will use it in this against security premium. कितना है मेरा security premium? मुझे चाहिए 15 लाख. See the question, 15 लाख से कहीं ऊपर है. That means what? I can use पूरा का पूरा 15 lakhs against security premium. So my next entry, this premium on buyback, I will write off against security premium. One more thing, even if you write it off against general reserve, it is fine. It cannot be wrong because the act says free reserve or security premium. But we are using security premium because it has got limited use. Okay. So now I will write off. How you will do? Premium को write off करना है. यहाँ पे मैंने debit किया है. So now to write off, I will credit and I am writing off against securities premium. So I will debit securities premium. So securities premium account debit 15 lakhs to premium on buyback account 15 lakhs. Security premium debit 15 lakhs to premium on buyback 15 lakhs. Narration. being buyback premium written off. Narration being buyback premium written off. Narration being buyback premium written off. Clear with this, guys? Got it? So premium on buyback I have written off against security premium. I'll repeat again. Even instead of security premium you debit general reserve, it will be fine. No issues with that. In my regular lectures I have given notes also for that. Okay? Now the third thing. What I told you, a source, two sources, fresh issue of shares जो नहीं है. So क्या बचा? Free reserve and security premium. That means this buyback is taking place out of reserves. Free reserve and security premium. देखो 25 लाख का अमाउंट था, 15 lakh I used from security premium. क्या बचा? 10 lakhs. Now this face value, if there is fresh issue of shares, this point doesn't come. Which point? I'm telling you now. I am buybacking from free reserves and security premium. So when you use the buyback amount from free reserve and security premium, same what you did in SY, you have to create an account called as CRR, that is capital redemption reserve. Capital redemption reserve will be created at the time of redemption of preference shares or at the time of buyback, but it will be created only in that situation where the buyback or redemption takes place out of profit. यहाँ पे it is out of profit, so I will create, but it is to be created only to the extent of face value, that means 10 lakhs, because 15 lakh तो security premium में आ गया. So now it's a book entry you all have done in SY. I will create CRR out of my free reserves and security premium. Now guys, pay attention. यहाँ पे there is a point. I have to create CRR. CRR is a reserve liability, so I will credit. Now the question is what to debit. Again the same thing. I can debit security premium, I can debit free reserves, that is general reserve. क्या करना है? Both are correct, but यहाँ पे there is a difference of opinion. Generally, free reserve is used for CRR. Preference shares में तो हम general reserve ही use करते थे. यहाँ पे you can use both. So here, even if you use security premium, fine, general reserve, fine. But premium में same point था, दोनों use कर सकते थे. But premium में we are using security premium. यहाँ पे my strategy for CRR purpose will be to use free reserve. So I will use general reserve. Even if security premium is used, it won't be wrong, but majority of the authors are also following that. So we will stick to that. After the sum, I'll give you a note also. So CRR, I will create from general reserve the same strategy what we used in SY. And what I told you, CRR is created only to the extent of face value, that is 10 lakhs. Because 25 लाख है, 15 लाख को सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम से यूज किया. So now बाकी का 10 lakh I will use general reserve. So general reserve account debit 10 lakhs to CRR. We will use the full form, that is capital redemption reserve. So general reserve account debit 10 lakh to capital redemption reserve 10 lakhs. General reserve to capital redemption reserve, that is 10 lakhs. being CRR created. Being CRR created. Got it, guys? And now, after that, I come to the last entry. Again, I am repeating. यहाँ पे जनरल रिजर्व किया तो भी चलेगा, यहाँ पे सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम किया तो भी चलेगा. इट इज फाइन. वी विल स्टिक टू दैट थिंग. प्रीमियम, अगर सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम है, वी विल यूज सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम. CRR वी विल यूज फ्री रिजर्व. अगर यहाँ पे सिक्योरिटी कम पड़ा, प्रीमियम कम पड़ा, वी विल यूज जनरल रिजर्व. अगर यहाँ पे जनरल रिजर्व कम पड़ा, देन ओनली वी विल यूज सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम. वी विल फॉलो दैट स्ट्रैटेजी. ओके, एक काम करो, यू ऑल राइट द नोट, लीव 4-5 लाइन बिकॉज क्या एक ही एंट्री, 4-5 लाइन छोड़ दो. राइट अ नोट फॉर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. लिखो नोट. स्पेशली दोज हु आर गोइंग टू स्टडी विथ मी, राइट अ नोट. ओके, those others also you want to write, but please don't get confused with the concept what I am doing. Okay, note likho. Premium on buyback has been written off against security premium. Premium on buyback has been written off against security premium. Alternatively, it can be written off. Against general reserve. Take the next note for this. For transfer to CRR, general reserve has been used. For transfer to CRR, general reserve has been used. Alternatively, security premium can be utilized for buyback. Clear? ये नोट लिखोगे, एग्जाम में सेफ रहोगे. Those who are autonomous students, you see what your college does. Okay, चलो. Now the last entry very simple. See guys, क्या था बायबैक? इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स से शेयर्स वापस लेना है, उसके सामने उनको पैसा देना है. What is written in narration here? Being amount due to equity shareholder in the first transaction. हमने इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स को क्रेडिट किया है 25 lakhs. What we have written? This amount is due to them, payable to them. बायबैक क्या कर रहे हैं? इक्विटी शेयर्स, पैसा उनको देना है. So as per the first entry, we were supposed to pay them 25 lakhs. Now we will pay them. When it was due, payable, we credited. Now we will pay them. We will settle the account, so we will debit. So equity share holders account debit 25 lakh to bank account 25 lakhs. Equity shareholder account debit 25 lakhs to bank account 25 lakhs. Narration being equity shareholders account settled. Being equity shareholders account settled. Being equity shareholders account settled. Clear with this? I'll repeat. It was due, payable था तभी उनको क्रेडिट किया, पे करना है उनको डेबिट करो. सेम एंट्री फॉर SY, बट SY में यहाँ पे प्रेफरेंस शेयर होल्डर्स था. एंड वाई क्रेडिटेड बैंक? बिकॉज पैसा जा रहा है, बेसिक ऑफ FYJC. Money comes in, debit cash bank, money goes out, credit cash bank. This is company doesn't deal in hard cash. When they pay, they'll pay by check only. So equity shareholders debit because it was payable to them. Now I'm paying them and money goes out, so I credit. Okay, 25 lakh plus 15, 40, 50, total 65 lakh. Okay, so 25 and 15, 40, 20, 35, 50, sorry, 75 lakhs, 40, 50, sorry, 75 lakhs. Okay, 25 and 40, 50, 35, 50, yeah, 75 lakhs is the total. Got it, guys? So this was buyback. Hope the concept is clear. Coming to that point, मैंने बोला था ना, there are people who will consider the fourth limit. क्या है? See, कितना चाहिए मुझे बायबैक के लिए? 25 lakhs. अगर फ्रेश इश्यू नहीं है, then I have to see मेरा जनरल रिजर्व और सिक्योरिटी एज पर दिस सम, जनरल रिजर्व और सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम में दोनों में मिला के 25 लाख होना चाहिए. ये सम में है. That is the reason I told you that fourth point is not to be considered here. But suppose मेरा जनरल रिजर्व और सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम में 25 लाख से कम होगा, then I cannot buy back this. My buyback will be reduced. ऐसा एक ही सम है. When I come to that sum, that time you will see, otherwise it is not required. That point was that 25 लाख ड्यू है, 1 लाख शेयर्स बायबैक कर रहा हूं, so 1 lakh into 25 lakhs should be there in free reserve and security premium if there is no fresh issue. अगर नहीं है तो वो और कम होगा. ऐसा एक ही सम है जो आगे जाके हम करेंगे. Right now, we are not going to get into that. Right now, if the debt equity ratio goes above 2:1, we are not going to get into that. We will see at a later stage. Got it? I want to keep this very basic. So hope the session was clear. Again, थोड़ा लंबा हो गया, approx 1 hour 10 minutes हो गया, but then I have solved the basic sum also to make the concept clear. So guys, that's it. I wind up here. ये वीडियो YouTube पे भी ओपन है. प्लीज सी एनी नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स व्हाट यू वांट till the time the concept is not clear. But those who are specially going to study this chapter with me, बराबर कर देना, वरना आगे का पॉइंट समझ में नहीं आएगा. And even those who are watching other than my students, to make the concept, please watch the video carefully. Wherever you study, if you get the concept, it will become much easier for you all. That's it, guys. I wind up here. See you all in the next class. Till then, take care, guys.